for a few minutes here.
All right. How's it going, everyone?
What's going on, DopeTrades?
Didn't really have an agenda to talk about, but I think I was just going to review charts and answer questions that people might have, so feel free. I'm going to read the chat quite a bit and answer questions, but I just noticed a lot of guys are probably freaking out with the big move down we had in Bitcoin. Last week, I think when I talked to you guys, I think I had mentioned this 10,000 level was probably going to be important. I don't know if I really gave any ideas to where I thought it would go, but we can see, like, take this magnet off. It pretty much came down to this level of support that was untested, at least in how I look at the charts. Kind of just to review sort of what I had talked about last week. 1 second, I'm gonna fix this trend line, so I don't like how it works. There we go. Get rid of this extend. All right. So basically, it's kind of like the same thing we had talked about last week. I don't even remember what day that was, but I was kind of looking for this leg that we're in. So right, we have this big leg up, primary trend, and I think last week we sort of talked about why Bitcoin had popped off of some of these levels that it did, and then here it's more clear, probably on the daily, but see, like we sort of gained a level of resistance that's here, and I just call it gaining support. But it's kind of the same thing, right? Last week we were kind of looking for this level here, and if we go into it closer, we'll look at that in a second, but of where it was congested. But again, how I kind of had explained stuff to some of you guys last week is you had to move down, and then you have a higher move that started this leg, right? So that's actually where I'm going to be kind of diverting my attention, at least as potential places to get long. So here again, I have a move down, and you can sort of see, I call it peaks and valleys, right? So you can sort of see that this is making a valley inside of it, right? And there's multiple levels in there inside of this valley, but if you get the idea, right? We're making a valley here as we come up. And then when we come back down, there's going to be levels of importance inside of it that are gained. That's pretty much where I want to look for taking trades, the untested levels, and then more importantly, the last level. So the last level inside of that peak and valley, or this valley, for example, is going to be untested, and that's your leg start. That's where price is going to go. So today, you had a good opportunity off the lows if you knew this. If you knew where to look within the leg. So if we look at kind of what happened today, you can even go. So you had your first touch there, and you have some potential targets. The first thing that I would do is when you're looking at your potential targets, you're looking at the move that took you down. So you've actually got a couple moves that took you down. If you can see, I'm drawing from the high to the low of each leg that took me down inside of this. So right now, all of this is accumulation. You can see all of this right here is accumulation, setting up. It's setting up the reversal to come down to where we were way back here in December December. So it's all accumulation and setting it up. And then I can prove it to you. I can show you. There's probably going to be, I haven't looked at it yet, but I'm guessing we're going to see MACD is already turning. So if I show this, I know somebody last time was really interested in the MACD. Yep. Go to a little bit smaller because something you should write down if you're not familiar with accumulation and distribution. You're going to see accumulation or distribution on the lower time frame first. And there you can see you've got a convergence here. So you've got price that's moving down and your MACD is converging. So that's telling you your accumulation is setting up. If you know where the proper level is, you're gonna you'll know where you should really see a big reversal. So now, with that being said, currently we're sort of stuck, right? We're sort of stuck in between this level, this leg down, right? We've got this bigger leg. If I want to reverse the trend, what do I have to do? I'm gonna have to get above the high here that took me down. So they're getting close, right? So your first target, right? If you'd have gotten long there, your first target would have been inside of here. Like you got a couple of options. If I were trading this, what I would have done is I would have started from this move up. So I'll highlight it so you understand what I'm talking about. In purple here, this little move up. So again, I'm making peaks and valleys as this happens, right? So we've had to move to the low. As I'm popping off of this low, because this came from a daily and a 4-hour chart, this low we had here on the bottom, I'll add a text to that so you guys remember. If I can remember how to do that. There it is. This is daily 4-hour support. And I gotta show it so you guys can see it. Do it again. Center, let's do it to the right. There you go. So I labeled that for you. 4-hour daily level support. Just to give you guys another heads up. I know I'm being repetitive, but just so that you guys know where the level came from. It's coming from inside there. So back to that. So if you're trying to long this, there's some things you got to be aware of. You got to be aware of the move that's taking you down, and you really have two of them here. So you've got sort of legs inside of legs. So here to here is a move that's taking you down, and then it's sort of a part of this bigger picture leg. From what day was this? From I guess today actually. All right. So we know we're accumulating. We know where our 4-hour daily level was. We know we have some areas we have to get above. So what does that mean? If I'm truly going to turn around this trend, I'm going to have to get above what's inside of here. So I'm going to go to the 15 just to show you kind of like if you were wanting to scalp or trade this. If I want to reverse the trend, I have to get above this high here. So now you know what I'm looking at on the purple. Close this out, and then I'll just mark it sort of here. This high of interest. I need to get above that, and then in doing so, the levels that I'm gonna long looks like they may have already been hit. But if we get above there, I'd be looking for somewhere down in here, like this area down there. Get rid of the chat. So somewhere down here in that area is where I would want to get long if price did get back down there. So it kind of gives you the way I would trade. I would wait. But let's say that if you did take this trade off the lows because you knew this was a big 4-hour level and we got like 1,000-point pop from the low. If you did take that, where would my first target be? And my first target from the low would have been this low here. So like a safe way to get out of the trade is I would have gotten there. Hold on a second, I'm getting a call here. What's going on? All right, guys. Sorry for the interruption. Easy was calling me. I didn't know there was something going on that I wasn't aware of. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No problems here.
Okay. All right. Great. All right. So So the reason I know some of you guys are talking about this is a forex. I'll slow down. Yeah, this is forex. But the reason why I go over this the way I do is because it works with every chart. It works with pretty much everything here. Any kind of chart, doesn't matter what the product is. A chart's a chart, and it all pretty much does the same thing. But right now, this is a 15-minute chart, and I'm going back and forth between time frames because I'm trying to tie in. There's levels of importance on all your time frames. So I generally tell people, if you want to trade, you have to use all your time frames together to understand what trend is really doing, because what you're going to notice is trend is going to change on your smaller time frames first, because obviously they take less time to produce those candles. All right. I know it's kind of confusing, but some of the guys over here last week, they probably remember some of the stuff I had talked about. I don't know if we should go over it again, just in like a quick reference. I don't know if that would help somebody.
I think probably. We have almost 800 people live on Twitch watching, so I think so. There's a lot of confusion right now.
All right, let's. I'm just give you guys like a really quick and dirty overview of like how trend works and how support work. All right. I know I did this again last week. I'm just going to probably say it like once or twice and then kind of go back to what we're looking at now. All right, so in every trend, right, you have legs, right? You have moves that take you up. You have a trend up. That's pretty straightforward, pretty easy to understand, right? And in the process, there's two processes called accumulation and distribution. Basically, at the bottom of legs, or areas of where you see price continue to go higher. So, like here's an example. Here's an example. Like we keep going higher, right? And near the bottoms of these of where you have swing points, you're gonna see accumulation. Near the tops, you're gonna see distribution. So really, there's kind of like these two vehicles, if you will, that move price: accumulation, distribution. And really, what that is your institutions or your bigger holders, shareholders. They're essentially using an area to buy, or they're using an area to sell before they turn the trend, if that makes sense, without getting too complicated in like the whole market maker process. But for that, that's really all you need. It's the sideways action at the bottom of a trend. So the basing action, the sideways movement, is accumulation. So like this. So like this sideways movement, right? And the same thing happens at the top. You get this basing action at the top, which is distribution. All right. So with that being said, we've sort of give you guys what that is, right? And you can look that stuff up online. I think Investopedia will give you more detailed definitions of how that works and what to expect to see. All right. From there, we move on to legs, which is just your trend, right? It's just your trend. So you've got bigger legs and you've got smaller legs. You've got legs within legs, really. All right, so currently, this is the leg Bitcoin is retracing. Now, I said last week there's a way to know when trend is going to reverse, and I showed you guys a bunch of different examples, but I'll go over it again really quick. Here's the move that took you to the high. So what you do is you find the all-time high, right? Or the high of the swing that you're looking at, the high of the leg you're looking at, which is from like, we'll call it like 17,000 up to the highs at like 20,000. So it's about 3,000 points. And I could even go smaller and go into smaller charts, and it's pretty much the same thing. I mean, there are you can make the argument that even this is the move to the high on the smaller time frame, but it works the same way nonetheless. So what has to happen to reverse trend, right? You've got to start distributing, which is what this is. All of this triangle move that you guys are seeing, a lot of people might understand wedges. If you draw wedges, you've heard of them. Essentially, a rising wedge like this is a distribution pattern. And what it's telling you is that they're slowing the trend and setting up the move to take you down, which is when we had this huge move down, like to like around 11,000 or so, right? We're still essentially in the same doing the same thing, right? Because we're still in this big trend, so it takes time to reverse trend. Like if you look at the S&P 500, the dot-com bubble, and the financial crash, those distribution periods took like a year or two. The same thing happens. Obviously, this is not as big of a market, so it's not going to take as long, but you get the picture, right? There's not nearly as much to lose. Governments aren't going to crash, stuff like that. The financial world isn't going to crash if Bitcoin crashes, but you get the picture. So back to what I was saying. I'm looking at the move that took me to the high, and we'll go over it again in like these smaller legs, but you can see the same concept. The move that took me to the high, right? Your market's low, and you draw that. So that's what we're paying attention to. Now what I need to see is price needs to get below this low. So right here, I need to close. Usually I'd say close. You just need to get below it, but it's better if you close below it, which we did over here. So we finally closed below it. Now what that's telling me is I call this losing the high. That means we're going to go lower. That means a leg down is coming because we've lost the high. And the idea is when trend is continuing, when you're trending up, you don't want to be losing levels of support. If you do, that's bad for your trend. That's telling you that your trend is reversing, and that's essentially what's happening here, right? Just to give you guys a quick rundown. So, and then as you see, we had this leg down. All right, let's see if the same thing happened here, right? And we can pretty much see that that's what happened. You have a move up. This is a leg with inside of this leg, but you can see we have a move up to the high, close below it, and now we're continuing lower. If that makes sense. Maybe look at a little smaller time frame, might be a little bit more clear. Yeah. So from here, you can see we have a move up to the high, we close below it, and then they sell it off. So I'll draw what that looks like. And they sell it off. You close below it, and they sell it off. All right, so you close below it, they popped back up to what they had just lost. So right here's your support that had just gotten lost. You came down, you tested some support inside of here, and then they rallied. So right there is your short opportunity. That's one of the few spots you had to get in. I guess you could have gotten in short. I don't really think a lot of people short Bitcoin.
Oh, it's like $2.8 billion on BitMEX today, and that's the shortable market. So a lot of people are.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, if you, I'm not too familiar with which brokers people use, but yeah, that gives you the idea. Like you didn't have a lot of opportunity to short it, but what I'm saying is if you understand when you lose a high, then you know you can either take your profits from your longs if you've gotten in lower, because that's telling you trend is going to reverse, and then at the same time you can figure out where to short. So it's kind of the idea, right? So kind of back to where we were, I guess. And I know it's kind of complicated to people that have no idea what I'm talking about, but
so Rock and Roll GJ on Twitch is asking to explain the lose a high again.
Yeah. Okay. So again, like it happens over and over, pretty much anywhere. Like you can take any product, wherever, doesn't matter. So like right here, right? It's almost like it's fractal or it's fragmented, right? Like it'll happen on every time frame within each leg. All right, so for this move, right? For this trend, right? You're having a move up, right? So that's obviously our big picture, bigger leg right there, or our intermediate leg, right? Our primary leg is this one here, this huge move up, right? From like, it's actually even lower. This is a 2 hour. That's actually not even correct, but you catch my drift, right? So just explaining losing the high. You have this trend or a leg. It's what I call a leg. And what I do is I mark the move that takes me to the high. So like this area right here. So from there to there is the move that took me to a high. Does that make sense? Right here. I moved up to a high. So you could even say that. It doesn't really matter, I guess. Close enough. Maybe go to the 4 hour and check it out. I would say really there. So you have a pullback and it took you to a high. Now, what I want to see happen is price get below the move that took me to the high. So it's really this red candle here. You want to get below that. Right? So we got below it. Now what that's telling me is trend is reversing. Obviously, you're probably asking yourself like, well, that's a big move already. Well, yeah. But if you want to continue going short, you got to get below the move that takes you to the high. Because sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes they'll just come down and they'll just test this low, and then they pop it, and they'll rally it back up, and you don't actually lose the high, and trend will continue. It happens like pretty much all the time. And for example, it happened right here in an uptrend, right here. So this move up, we went up, and they rallied it back down inside of that little valley, and they pop it. Now, if we'd have gotten below this, then I would have been thinking to myself, okay, we're losing the high. But we didn't. Here they did. Here they did lose the high. So it's telling you, okay, we're setting up to go lower. And then what you have to do is you got to pay attention to your higher time frame, because technically this is going to be confusing for a lot of you, but technically this is our move. This is our leg. And all of this stuff inside of here, like all of these, are just legs that are in containment. Like they're just contained they're contained inside of this, right? It's another conversation, a little bit more advanced, but for now, for the swing traders, this was kind of setting up the idea of how this works. So I kind of explained your question about losing a high. It's the exact same for gaining a low, or it happened right here. Maybe it'd be better to show you on like more current time, a more current chart. But the same thing happens. You get above the candle that took you to the low, and then you continue higher. Maybe I can find a better example, which is exactly what I was talking about for trend to reverse on the short term. Here, we need to see it happen. All right, so like right here. Okay, yeah, so right here, this will be a good example. So the first time when we came back down to 10,500 or 10,700 when Bitcoin crashed earlier, the same exact thing happened, right? So if I want to gain a low, if I want trend to reverse, there's the move that took me to the low. I need to get above this, which I finally did. Which we got above it right here. You can see that we got above it. We finally closed above it. And then what you do is you look for levels of support inside of here. Probably that right there, give or take, would be your long point, right? Because we had to get above this, right? So we're getting above that high. We could come back down, and now you know trend is probably changing. You can get in. You could get long here, and then your stop would be just below that low. So that would be your stop to tell you, okay, nope, you're wrong, it's invalidated, the trend is going to continue lower. But if not, then that's where you would get long, and you could ride it up to the next level of support. In this situation would have been from here. You could have looked, I would have probably taken a safe trade, which would have been right there, that level there. But nonetheless, that's gaining a low. That's how it works. You can see we ended up going a bit higher. But kind of back to the current action. I know, confusing a lot of people.
No, you're doing great, man. You're doing great. We almost have 800 viewers on Twitch. This is awesome.
All right. Same concept here, guys. So I explained to you guys where this level came from, right? There should be no confusion on that, right? If I want to get above, if I want to reverse the trend, I got to get above the high here, and I'll just mark the level, right? And we'll change it so you know. I got to get above this. I'm gonna make it a dash line so that you know what I'm talking about. I need to get above this dash line before I can really think trend is going to continue higher before that can happen. Some areas that we might see, where they might target if we do get higher. Well, I'm looking in this valley. That might be a target. That would be our next target, right? Somewhere right here. So if I could come up, I would expect to move back down, and then I would want to see like this. I would want to see something like that to continue higher. Or maybe first you come back to those highs, but you get the idea, right? You want to see that. I think the same thing happened in like I think Ripple. I talked to you guys about a bunch of different products last week, and I noticed that a lot of them did kind of the stuff that I had thought was going to happen. Kind of like this TRX, right? It's the same thing that's happening. Pretty much the same idea. I have to find. It's pretty much right there, I guess. That high. It's hard to see inside of that, but it's the same concept, though, guys. The same thing that had happened. I think last week when I was on the air, like this wedge was forming, and I was telling a lot of people here I thought we were going to go lower. I think I was looking right there. That would have been a long opportunity right here, somewhere in this valley, maybe. Oh, it was that one. This is TRX that we're looking at. I'm just kind of flipping back and forth to show you guys some different things that I was looking at. You can see like that sort of makes a valley inside of there, right? Where I've got this triangle drawn. Right? Am I crazy, or does that make sense to you guys? It's not just Forex. This is trend analysis, right? This is how I use trend, right? How I understand the process of how trend reverses and how levels form. Because levels are where trading is happening. It's where you're taking profits and getting in and out of trades. At least the institutions, the institutions, the traders with a lot of money.
Yeah, guys, this isn't about Forex. We're still trading currency pairs with crypto. So don't be confused. All the same ideas still apply.
Yeah, it's all the same. If I miss any questions that you guys want me to ask, as I'm kind of looking at the chart and not really looking at the chat, but if you guys, if I miss something, just interrupt me, and if there's something I should respond to from just rambling, let me know. But so I think last week, though, this was the area we were looking at in TRX. I think this is where we were when I was on the air, and I wasn't really trying to say like I think this is where we're going to go or this is what we're going to do, because I don't really want to give away trades and stuff like that. But I think I did say like I thought we would probably go lower, and it's the same concept. It's the same idea, right? This is your big leg up, your trend up, and then you lose the high, which I'll go in. I think I showed you guys this last week too. The same concept. You lost the high, the move that took you to the high. We finally got below it, and that's why I was thinking I think we're going to go lower. But the idea, though, is when you lose your high, you still usually, you don't get in, you don't short it right away, because you're normally going to come back and test things inside of this, what you're leaving untested. So inside of this peak right here, right? This is the move that took you to the high. You create levels inside of it, and then you can come back and test them, and you get short if you wanted to do so. The same thing has happened here in TRX. It's the same exact thing. We're coming down and we're just testing levels of support that were gained, and that's where we pop. So now, what do we do if we want to reverse the trend? Well, you have to get above the move that took you down. So what's the move that took me down? I would say it's somewhere around here, right? Somewhere in that area, right? We need to get above it. If I go to a bigger time frame, it might be, it's not quite as obvious because this is a little bit thinly traded probably, I would guess. But yeah, so like the move that took me down, if I want to reverse the trend, I need to get above that. It hasn't really happened yet, so we're going to probably stay contained within this leg, if that makes sense. Let's see, what else not really sure. What else did I think we looked at Ripple, maybe? I think that was another one. I think the same thing's happening pretty much all over the charts. Yeah. Let's take a look at it. You can see there's a daily high we moved. Got above it, never tested it. Probably inside of here is, I'm just guessing, inside of this square that I'm drawing, there's going to be a level of support. Looks like it. Yep. You could have even said there. So somewhere inside of that's a 4 hour. Let me go to an hourly, maybe it's clear. Yeah, so it's pretty much that's pretty much giving you your areas right in here. That was a big daily level, which is untested. Did we get there yet? Pretty close. Yeah, I probably would have said right here. If I were trading this, yep. That's untested. That's exactly where they took it. So it's the same concept that I showed you guys on Bitcoin and in TRX. This is an hourly chart of Ripple. You have a move up. And you can see it sort of segments. It'll continue and continue, but you get the idea. So you have a move up. Now I want to see, where did I lose the move that took me to the high? Well, here's the move that took me to the high. Did I get below it? We did. So I was telling you guys, everything's going to be in a downtrend because we're losing the high. So trend is reversing. You've got your distribution pattern. Pretty much all these charts look exactly the same. Like if you didn't tell me, if I couldn't see the price or the product, I would probably not know what's what. But it's pretty much the same thing, right? So the same idea. You come down, you test support that you had gained, because I think I explained gaining support earlier in the video. And I'll just show you that again really quick. Here you have a move to a low. We got above it. The next time that you come down, you're going to test it. So somewhere down inside of there in this valley, when price gets there, it's going to bounce off of it. Oh, it's not that one, it's this one. My bad. I think we did actually get a little bounce there. Yeah, we did. It's this one. Yeah. It's a more significant level. There's your daily high. So let me draw this again. So here you have a move down, and then you get above it. And when you come back to test this valley again, see how it's creating a valley when that happens? When you come back down into that area for the first time, you test it and you get a big pop off of it. The further down it is in the leg, the bigger your moves are going to be, the bigger your bounces are going to be, if that makes sense. How are these support points decided? Dave B asked me. Well, like I just said, I have a swing high and it formed a swing low. Inside of this, it's creating a valley. As price gets above this previous swing high, I know that there's levels of support inside of here. So the way I draw it is from the candles, the wicks, the highs and the lows inside of that valley, right? So inside of there, I'm gaining something. I'm gaining a level because price gained it. It got above it, right? It got above the move that took me lower. If I zoom in so you guys can see what I'm talking about more clearly, right? This point from the top of this dark blue line, it's a move down. We got above that, so I gained it. And I left it untested, and that's exactly why they came here. It's also a daily level. It's the high of this move. It's the high of this candle here, the 1227 candle. It's the high. We never came back and tested it, right? So that's why they came back. And that's why they're going to pop off of it. It happens over and over again. Let's see. Somebody said you can't predict what's going on with this stuff, and you can actually. I think I did actually predict some of these huge moves in Bitcoin whenever I was following it more closely. Let's see. How is something tested How is something tested? Well, that's exactly what they did. They just come down and bring price to that level, and they test it. And then they usually, on your first test of an untested support, so that's the key. When you're testing something, it has to be untested, right? Which here on the daily it was. And as I showed you guys, it's the same thing here. Did we not come up, gain it, and not test it? Somewhere in there. All right, so if we go back to Ripple, currently, it's the same thing. Why are they stalling here? Why are we stalling? There's a level there. So if I go in here, right? It's the same thing. It happens on every time frame. There's your move down. It could be temporary, but you get the idea. There's your peak, right? And then inside of there is where they're gonna come back to test. So I take the shortcut that I do is I take the high of the move, but really it's any level inside this peak can potentially get a reversal. So here, that's where we came up. That we took the high of the move. The candle that makes the high there, I take its low, and that area is where they're coming back to test. Now remember, I said we have to get above this high to be a long. So I got to get above this, which they're trying to do right now. All right, if you ask yourself why, if I go to even smaller, right? We'll just show you like a 5-minute. Why did this smack happen? Why do we come up, smack that, and come back down? It's the same thing. It's right here. If you look, like we're just breaking down the trend on the smaller time frame. So right there is your peak, right? Because really on the 5-minute you have a segment, you have a leg down, right? It took you down. So every time you test an untested area, every time you're gonna test something, you're gonna get reversed. It's gonna reverse off of it. So it's the same thing they did. They smacked up here, right here. They came down, and now they're trying to gain it. They haven't done that yet, right? So does that make sense? Is what I'm saying. Does that make sense? The same thing happened right here too. As you came down, you created a peak. So here to here, right? You're making a peak, right? I'm just delete everything. Take it because it can be confusing. Right here, you have a leg down. I'm drawing that line, the trend line, so you understand the leg down. Inside of here, we're creating a peak, and what they're doing is they're coming in and testing it, which is what they did. When they come back to test it on your first touch, you're gonna get a reversal, and that's what they did. They continue lower. And you have to intertwine your time frames to understand the bigger trend, but you get the idea. So it's how you could scalp if you wanted. All right, I'm sure there's a lot of questions. Just kind of some of the stuff. If anybody has any questions they want me to ask, or they want to ask, or want me to answer, I could try to do that.
Well, here's one for your daft question. What is the single biggest mistake that you see new people make when they start day trading?
When they start day trading, probably over leveraging is probably the biggest thing, because you don't necessarily have to know what I'm doing. You don't have to know chart reading per se to make successful trades. There's plenty of other systems and ways you can trade, but the biggest thing is if you over leverage your position and not take your losses quickly when you're wrong. Those two things kind of go hand in hand. So really your trading account balance, your bankroll management, if you fail to do that, you're going to lose, no question.
And do you prefer to buy at a 20 or 30% dip? So you never hit the bottom.
Yeah, I don't really look at percentages in terms of dips, right? I look at it technically. I break the chart down based on trends in terms of timing, like your time frame. So like this should be fairly clear. You can see how this is segmented, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some people that trade Elliott wave, they would call it like this is a wave or something like that, right? I don't know. It's sort of similar, but it's not. But you can see like you're making segments inside of it, and as you approach each segment, right? Because what's happening is you're creating levels around here. These areas of consolidation that people talk about and don't really understand it in the way that I approach it. They just call it consolidation, but that's really where your levels of support and resistance are, right? Because you're slowing price as you come down there or as you come up there.
So I'll be honest, I would have more joy reading, or more chance reading tea leaves than understanding a chart. It's an art that I just can't get yet. Give me a year or so.
Yeah, and it just takes time and practice to understand what's going on. But so, like I said, guys, we're still trying to get above this high because it's what took us down. I mean, and then technically here you have to move. Yeah, there's another one. So you've got legs down, and if you want to reverse trend, you need to get above them. And then what you do then is you take your longs back down here. So if price comes back down here like that, let me use a different tool. But if price were to come back down here, then I would be looking to get long somewhere down there, and with the expectation that I would eventually get above this high and go test some other levels inside of there. Like that would be my target area if we did that.
Crypto Brussels just asked a really nice question that you might like.
LTC 4 hour, we had a nice hammer pin bars. None of them started bullish movement. Is it panic or just what's your analysis on that? Try to understand your question. None of them started bullish movement. Let's see. Let's take a look at what he's asking. I'm not sure what he's talking about in terms of pin bars. What time frame?
It might be the LTC.
This
BTC
400 right?
chart, or
Yeah,
it could be this one as well.
Okay, yeah, that's probably what he's talking about. So really, this looks like it's pretty much just testing the same thing.
Gosh, look at that roller coaster of green.
So really, I mean, it's the same thing, right? You still have your big leg up, right? And there's going to be levels inside. Essentially, if we lose that, like what they're doing, right, is I would say this is a second test of this. It's their levels are so close together that it's pretty much the same thing. But you didn't lose this. So I can't see how we would progress back down to this until you get below that. Like I don't really see how you would get down to this level until you get below this low here, which they haven't done yet. So he's asking me, this is a pin bar. He says, what did he say? In the Forex world, they call these big wicking candles like that pin bars. None of them started bullish movement. Well, you haven't really gained anything either. So let's look at it. So just maybe you can answer your own question. Judging by what I just talked to you about, right? That was the move that took us down to the low, Crypto Brussels. So on the hourly, it's not as clear of a pin bar, but I guess it is. But if I said trend had to change, right? What did I say you had to do? You had to get above the candle, the move that took you to the high that took you to the low. We haven't got above there yet. Actually, the previous bars. I'm not sure which bars you're talking about. So we haven't got above that though. So right now, like what they're doing is they're stalling out there. So there's your high, and they basically are stalling there. So they're not ready to take it down because there's a process. Going back to like one of the very first things that I said, right? This whole process is accumulation, right? So how do I know that? Well, if you didn't understand what I'm talking about, maybe you could throw on your MACD, go to a smaller time frame, just so we can understand what's going on, because accumulation happens on the smaller time frame first. There you can see you've got this convergence, right? You see we're sort of trending up, price is trending down. They're trying to turn it. Now, does it mean that they will? Not necessarily. We haven't gotten above this. And what I also do is, like I said, you got to pay attention to your bigger trend, your bigger leg. Well, what's going on here? Well, the move really started from there. So I would expect that's probably going to get tested, and we'll get a huge move off of it. The Granddad 13 says, what if you bought near the top? How would you work out a potential breakout? Do you mean breakdown? What do you mean? A breakout is generally expecting a move higher. I'm not sure if I understand this question.
Yeah, I think what he means is so a breakout technically would be a retest of the top and a break above it. If you're buying at the top and just on an upward trend, that would just be like a FOMO buy, right? We don't want to be doing that.
Yeah, you really don't want to buy at the top. The way I trade is you want to buy first touches of untested levels, and there's certain, like I said, this criteria I've been going over, right? So if you were thinking about buying Litecoin, right? All right, well, the area that I want to buy Litecoin first, I want to see this trend. I want to see us get above that. So I need to see price get above there, and then I would expect maybe let's say if it does get above there, it comes back into this zone and it tests that, right? So let's say we do get up there, we test this, and we come lower. In the process of doing that, that means I would be gaining this. I'd be gaining levels in here. So then what I would have to do is figure out where's support in there. And if you wanted to buy, say, for a longer term, I don't know, you could somewhere around in here is support, right? It's going to be in this area. Somewhere down there between 165 to 185 would be an area that I would think they would come back and test. But it's all contingent on if we get above this. So I don't wait for a breakout. That's not how I trade, because if you try to chase breakouts, you're going to end up losing a lot. You're just chasing trade. You're chasing price. I don't like to chase price. I only like to take first touches.
Yeah,
So
they might be a little bit of parroting me, because I do add-ons of breakout of previous consolidation, and I talk about that a little bit. It's just a thing that I personally do, so they might be parroting me a little bit. But yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's not really my style. My style probably seems counterintuitive, though. Somebody says, will these lines correlate to fib lines? Yes and no. It just depends. I don't really use fib lines. I think fibs are more subjective, but yeah, they will line up if you draw them properly. Usually. But yeah, so for whoever asked about Litecoin, I wouldn't be looking to get long until we get above this, and we fail to do that, right? So I don't really want to. I really don't expect trend to change yet. So if that answers your question, I know we're kind of jumping around all over the place. See any other questions?
I've just found a coin that has 8 white papers. As in 8 separate ones. Jesus Christ. Not different languages, all in English.
So yeah, as Mr. Unicorn asked for Bitcoin CoinBase, does it the 8,000 level? Is that untested? The 8,000 level, probably somewhere down there. Yeah, that's probably untested. I'd have to go and look, see if we can see back that far. It's hard to say, but yeah, that's a daily level too. I mean, that's an area that I would expect them to maybe get some liquidity off of. I would probably be looking to get long if I were going to trade this when it came back down is inside of this valley. You can see how it made a valley. Actually, I mean, it's close enough, that area. So inside of there, I'd have to go and see what they did. Maybe right here. Maybe that's like a 7,000. I mean, there's a bunch of levels inside of there, but you get the idea. Same thing's happening right here. So, yeah. It says, let's see, any other questions? So he says CryptoKins tested equals highs, lows, untested values, and peaks. Well, like I said, guys, I'm gonna say this one more time. So take notes, because hopefully you get this concept, and it's pretty simple once you understand it, right? Okay. So right here, gaining support. I'm gonna make sure. I don't know how to make this any more clear. Okay. Gaining support. There's a little bit of a lag on Twitch, so.
Okay, about 5 to 10 seconds ahead. No big deal.
Okay. All right. Gaining support. You can see I've drawn this trend down, right? This is a move down. I drew it from a high, a swing high, down to a low. Right? Somewhere in there, right? Now, in the process, if I want to gain this, if I need to gain this, right? I want to make this really clear, right? To gain a level of support, I have to get above this high. Okay? Have to get above that, which I did. Now, if I do that, inside of here, you can see that's a level of support. It was resistance there. It was resistance here, resistance. I gained it. So inside of this move down, you're going to form a valley, or what I call a valley. It's a way to cue your eye, right? You're forming a valley there. Does that make sense? And inside of there are going to be levels. There could be more than one. There are more than one. I'll show you another one. There's one. That one got tested right here, though. They tested it here. And the key thing is they tested it after the fact, after we got above this high. So that's a first touch, which is why price continued higher. Because that's the rule. First touches of untested levels usually get a bounce or they get a smack, depending on which direction you're going. Okay? So I've said we create a valley. I've drawn the levels inside of the valley. And generally what you're going to see is price is going to come back and test. It can test the top. It can test the top of the valley, or it can test the bottom of the valley, or it will test inside of there. There will be multiple levels inside of there usually, right? And then if you come over here, this is what they're testing. They tested that level inside the valley first there, and then they brought it back and they tested the level here on the bottom, which is why we're getting the pop. It's a first touch. You guys could say it has something to do with news. I don't know. I don't follow the news. I just trade the chart technically. Now, that would be where you would take a long. You would re-enter right there. You can see, and what you're going to normally see is inside of valleys you have consolidation, right? It's the same thing. Consolidation. It's telling you that there's a level there. So that's gaining support. Does that make sense? Gaining support is all about this move right here. This move down that took me to a low. I got to get above it to gain it. And then you can also gain more than one level inside of it, but you get the idea, right? Same thing as when you lose a level. I can go anywhere, pretty much anywhere on the chart and tell you, like, all right, here. I mean, I went over that one. That's the same one. Here's the same thing here. Losing a level. Seems like I spent a lot of time explaining gaining and losing. There's the move that took you to the high. I got below it. The next time I get there, I can short it. So I'm making it's forming a valley in there, right? Because I have a swing high. So you're forming a valley in there. I mean a peak, I'm sorry, a peak. And where do I take the trade? I have to get below it, right? So where's the level? I don't know, somewhere in there. Basically where they've drawn it, right there. If you wanted to, you could short it. You could have taken a short in here. It's not that great of a short, but you get the idea, right? I mean, it was 1,000 points or more, but if that makes sense. So that's losing a level. The same thing happened here, right? I think we went over this one too. Happens over and over. Even on a smaller time frame, it happens. Move to your high. It forms a peak. You got below it. Close below it. You really only had one shot here. If I go to the hourly, maybe we can see it a little better to show you where your entry would have been and how it worked. So there's your move to your high. You made this peak. I'll draw it a little bit simpler. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. Right? There's your move to your high. You make a peak. Now inside of it are going to be levels. That's pretty much the only chance you got right there. So you would have waited for it to go lower as it comes back to retest what it just lost, because going below the move that took you up means you're losing support. So your entry would have been right here. To short. And if you don't want to short, if you're just somebody that trades long, this is really all you have. This is showing you that trend is. Remember I said losing the high? I explained that early on. That's the same concept. It happens on every time frame. Let me see. Let me just see if it's possible to look at something I've never looked at to show you guys what it looks like on a daily. That's something I haven't really looked at. What's a big crypto? What's a coin that a lot of people are interested in that I haven't looked at yet?
Have you looked at Ethereum?
Ethereum USD?
Yeah, probably. Well, Ethereum USD is going to look like Bitcoin, but look at the Ethereum BTC chart if you haven't ever looked at that.
Okay.
Big market.
Coin. Which does it matter which one?
It doesn't really matter. Bitfinex is probably the highest.
Okay. Bitfinex. All right. Huh. It's pretty interesting. So it's pretty wild, actually.
Yeah, this one might be a little bit gross. We can look at the Ethereum BTC on Binance. That might be the highest one.
Oh, I'm just looking at some of these crazy moves we had.
Sure.
I mean, you could really start wherever. It's so I'll just maybe I can just stay with the daily and hopefully it works so that I can explain it so that it makes sense, right? So, all right, so we'll just start from the low. Like, let's say that you missed this buying opportunity down here, which I marked this daily area because it's coming from right here. It's coming from there. There's a peak. If I were to, I don't know if I can go back that far, but let's just see. Yeah, same exact concept. I mean, a lot of these charts look the same. So this was a daily high from March 13th, 2017. So like almost a year ago, right? So it's the same concept, right? It's the same concept. Well, if you didn't know this, you didn't know to get here and take a long, right? Then what you have to do is find the trend that took you down, find the leg that took you down. Where did that go? Where was that? Well, we go back to the daily because that's what I really wanted to show you guys. What did I have to get above? Here's our move that took me down to the low. What did I have to get above before I can think about getting long, right? I have to get above this, which I finally did. So what you're doing is you're testing. You can see how this is going to make a valley, right? Now, when you're using higher time frames, your levels are not going to be as precise. You're going to have to go your smaller to find the exact entry. But you get the point. It's the exact same thing. I'm drawing a valley. I'm drawing levels inside of this valley. And I'm doing it from the wicks, the highs and the lows of the candles inside of it. And as I said, it can go, really you'd have to go to a smaller, but you get the point, it's close enough. So what happens is you come down. And look, we haven't looked at this chart. Look, if you don't think it's legit, we'll just go from here, candle to candle, and I'll explain it to you, right? So I don't really know what's going on, but you'll get the idea. So here's your leg down. I've got a leg that's segmented inside of it from that high. I have to get above it. This is the area that I'm gaining because I got above it. Price comes down and tests it. We get a pop. Where do we target? I'm going to target right in here. This area here, because that's where resistance is going to be. So now if I scroll over one candle at a time, you kind of get the idea. It's pretty much where they came. Right here. Boom. Even better. They actually to get up to the T, and then you get a rejection. And the same thing happens. You're gonna come. You should. You keep doing the same thing, right? I can't make this smaller, but. And then what's happening over here? It's the same thing. We're just retracing this leg here. This leg down. I mean, you in the process of getting above this high. So this high, in the process of getting above it, you're gaining things inside of it. Now they don't have to go and test everything immediately. They can leave them untested. The idea is you draw the level, and when price comes back there, that's when you take the trade. You're not chasing price. You're waiting. At least that's how I trade, right?
Hell yeah.
So you asked me, I think someone said, it's not as clear on the daily, but you get the idea. Here you had a leg down. Yeah, I'm really gonna have to go to just a smaller to see what's going on. Yeah, it's coming from here. There was support that they lost inside of there. That makes a peak. It's inside of it. Should be pretty close. Yeah, you got a smack right here. There's your smack. Now, okay. If I want to get lower, if I want this trend to reverse, which just looks like what they're trying to do right now, what do I have to do? Well, what's the move that took me to the high? The move that took me to the high, all right? I need to get below that. They haven't done that yet because we're here. They haven't done that. So I can't expect trend to change until I get below it. But if it were to change, where would I get long from? I would get long inside of these valleys, right? Right? And I would look to my left and see, does this level line up? Does it make sense? Is it actually a resistance or a support level? Does it make sense? And if it does, then it's a level. That's it. I mean, if you can understand it, I don't know. I mean,
I love it.
not a lot of people believe it. They think it's nonsense. But if I were to, I don't know how to pull up old charts, but I think that first big crash in Bitcoin, I was telling everyone it's going to be a huge move down. It's the same thing. It's that, I don't know. I can only explain it the best I can explain it.
No,
I mean,
dude, you're doing a great job. No problem. No, seriously, it's all good, man. You're doing great.
am I saying that No, I'm not saying it's. He asked me, Yolanda Hunt, are you saying Ethereum is trying to test Bitcoin? No, I'm not. I'm not at all. Is there any other questions that you want to know? Anything else you want me to ask? Or you want to ask me that I can maybe answer? Just reviewing the process of how I look at this stuff. Can you please review XVG BTC? Maybe. XVG BTC. Bitfinance, I guess. It's not really clear on the hourly. I mean, on the daily.
So I do have a question. So XVG is a very news-driven, Twitter-driven type of market sentiment. Mm-hmm. Do you ever think about that in your own personal trades? Do you take in news to account?
So the only thing I take into account with news is the actual event. So like, if you know there's going to be an announcement, then you know that if it's a big announcement, you know you're going to get liquidity there. Whether that be a liquidity in the term of by way of a short, or liquidity by way of a long, if that makes sense. So I don't look at what the news is going to really say. I look at just the fact that there is a news event that's going to kind of be a catalyst to drive price. Because the problem is, right, if you chase news, so the whole idea, right, is like, price is set up to do what it's going to do before the news happens. Because if you think about it, let's think about it. If you're a big institution and a financial report comes out or some kind of big news event comes out, right? And price instantly moves. There's no way that. What do you think's going on? Do you think that institution has 1,000 people going through, or let's say if it's the paper that comes out that's the news event, it's like 100 pages long. Do you think did they really have time to read that paper? Absolutely not. There's no way they had time. It happened instantly when the news came out. A statement's made and news comes and price moves. The institutions didn't have time to read it. So what that's telling me is either one of two things. They already knew what the news was going to be, or two, price is set up to move before news happens. So price is set up to me, it's more logical, right? Because if they already knew, then it kind of goes into the same thing. They go hand in hand. If the institution already knew what the news was going to be, then they had time to set up the move, which is what they do. They set up the move and then it happens. So, I mean, I don't know.
No, great explanation, dude. That was just an open-ended question. That's all it was. It's all good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This doesn't look as clear, honestly, because to guys that don't understand what I'm doing, like, a lot of this stuff is just distribution. It's containment. It's contained. Like, you have a leg down, and all these legs are contained inside of it. And this is really your primary trend. This is really your primary trend, your big leg up. But we know that ideally, what should happen is we should go lower and test some of these big levels down here in the test some of these big levels of support that they're leaving untested down here. But I'm not making it perfect, but you get the idea. Because look at it. Just clearly, strictly from the beginning of the chat, the stream, when I started talking, it's the same thing, right? This is a huge area of accumulation. What always precedes a move up? It's always accumulation. You can't have a leg up unless you've accumulated. What always precedes a move down? Distribution. You can't have a leg down, and then this is kind of a crazy, it's pretty gnarly looking distribution pattern, but that's your distribution. In the bigger picture, and it's going to happen over and over in different areas of the chart. I mean, you're going to accumulate, and then price moves up. Accumulate, price moves up. Distribute, price moves down. Distribute, price moves down. I mean, it's an ebb and flow. Accumulation, leg up. Distribution, leg down. Distribution will target accumulation, if that makes sense. All right, if I have accumulation here, which is a sideways basing pattern, you can go look that stuff up on Investopedia or whatever other website you want. Same thing here, sideways move after a leg up. Distribution, didn't I just say distribution will target accumulation? So if like I'm being too technical for you, that should give you a key. Right? Distribution targeting accumulation. Right? It's the same process in the beginning. Accumulation, leg up, distribution, leg down. What's going on? Just really gonna have to go to a smaller time frame to kind of understand what's happening. I mean, to explain it in a way that you guys would understand it, but I mean, I'm on a really small time frame to try to find levels, but you can see I'm drawing them basically in the same spots, right? Inside of these peaks and valleys, which they come down and test over and over. Which looks like they're trying to do that now. And currently, it looks like we're trying to get down there. For some reason, the scroll is locked. But so yeah, with XVG, whatever this product is, right? It's the same thing. If I want to get in, reverse the trend, right? I've got to get above the move that took me down, which really hasn't happened. So what I would do is wait when price gets above this, and then I look for. So I would think a level to get long would be down in here somewhere. So if price gets above it and we come back down and take the first touch of it, that's it. And then it would target a level lost, which would be like up in here. That would be an easy target.
Hey, DopeTrades, real quick, it's Crypto.
Sure.
I just wanted to let everybody know that the United show has been canceled. He had a personal emergency he had to attend to. So if you were tuning in at 8 o'clock for United, he won't be coming on tonight. Right now we got DopeTrades live. I don't know how much longer you're going to go for, but I know Mike's right there too. I'm around, so we'll definitely be keeping you guys up to date with what's going on in the market. I know everybody's tuning in because the sky's falling, and we just want to make sense of it and give you the pertinent information as it comes in.
Yeah. So back to Bitcoin. What everyone's here for, they're losing their minds.
Hair on fire. I've been telling people to find a bucket if their hair is on fire all day, but I don't think people found the bucket yet.
Let's see. Yeah, so I mean, I think last week I showed you guys the stuff happens on any product. You guys think, oh, it's just crypto. Maybe it's manipulated. Yeah, maybe it is, but it still follows the same the same pattern. I mean, I look at a lot of equities, and I was showing you guys the same thing. And if you don't believe me, I can pull one up. Let's see, what's a stock maybe that crashed, like doesn't matter. Just think of one, or a stock that had a crash and a huge rally. It's the same thing over and over. It doesn't really matter.
What was that one that I said? Was it Snapchat? Was that the
Yeah,
one?
let's look at that. Let's look at that. Snap. So I just want to show you the idea, right? Let me see if this is going to make sense, because it looks like we've just been trending down. We never really gained anything, if you know it. Yeah, we haven't actually gained any support here. It's pretty wild. So what? It opened here. Let me go to let me just go to a smaller.
It looks so bad.
Yeah, let's take a look at it. Okay. All right. Just to give you an idea, right? Here's your move that took you to the high. If you're going to go lower, you got to get below the move that took you to the high, which we'll just say is somewhere in there, right? Now, in the process of this, you're making a peak, right? This is really terrible looking chart, but so if we get below this, that means we're losing the high, which they did. There's multiple levels in here, but I don't even know where a good spot to draw it from. Maybe there. I don't know, close enough, but so I never really actually got they did it from here. You didn't actually get a good short, but the idea is you'll come up, you'll test what you lost. So if, I don't know, I would say there's even levels in here, but if Snapchat were to ever get up to $26 again, I would be looking to short it, but it's probably not a good example, but
it looks terrible.
Yeah, maybe a better example for them to understand would be going from the low. So from here, right? This is the move that took me to a low. I have to get above it if I want to continue higher. So right here, I get above this move that takes me to the low, and then I mark levels of support inside of here. So what I'm doing is I'm looking, where was it support? Where has it been resistance? Somewhere in there, right? It's not perfect, but you get the idea. Somewhere in there. So the idea, right, is when price comes back down there for the first time, you take a long, which it did in this area, right? Then you take a long. Your easy trade would be to take profit at what it had just lost, which is this move, because you have a move up, and then you got below it, you went down. So inside that peak is where your level is. So if you knew this, if you were trading this back then, which I wasn't, I don't trade equities a lot, but if you were to come down there, you would know. Boom. You could take a trade there. That would be your long, your target, your easy target would be right there, inside of that previous peak. It's all the same thing. It doesn't matter what product, it doesn't matter anything. It's over and over. Is there anything else that you want to look at? Any other concepts? I don't know. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you don't like technical analysis, it's probably because you probably struggle to understand it, and I don't know. The problem is, like, there's so much nonsense in terms of what you read and how people think it work, and I think it's a good place to start. But the problem is when you get on the internet and you start looking to how to understand technical analysis, how do you know what you're reading? You know what I mean? How do you know if what the person is saying is valid? And What I'm trying to do is just show you guys over and over the concept and show you how it works. I'm not trying to really predict what's going on, but I just want you to understand the concept. That's kind of what I did last time, and I got a lot of questions for that. Yeah, so maybe take a couple more questions, and I think I'm going to head out. So I'm going to
there's going to be a VOD here. Sorry to interrupt. Sorry.
Yeah, he's Coon Boy's asking how are you determining levels inside of the valleys? I'm struggling to determine what the levels are. That would be extremely helpful. Okay. How am I determining the levels inside of a valley or a peak? Okay. You really have two. We'll just go here. You have. We'll just use this leg right here, right? And we'll just kind of scroll over. So you're making a peak. Inside of the peak, what I'm doing is a couple things. I'm looking for the candles open, the candles wicks, the tops and the bottoms, and then I'm interested in where has it been a level before. So like I'm not trying to get perfect to just explain this to you, but like you can see like that looks like, and it's normally going to be an area of congestion. So this kind of looks like an area of congestion, right? But I'm also going to mark. You could mark potentially. You're going to see reversals off of the bottom, so where the peak started. So this candle here is where the peak started, right? As you can see, this is where the peak started. So that could be a level, and then inside of there will be levels. And then what you do is you look to the left. So I'm looking to the left. Do these levels make sense? Does it make sense? Like, are we seeing reversals off of these levels? Yeah. We're seeing candles come down, they touch them and they bounce, they get up to them. So it's being support and resistance over and over. Next question, you said, where did the peak start? I just showed you the peak started right in here. Right? Now, the idea, right, would be if I get above the move that takes me lower, I should be able to come back up and test that. I don't know if it happened or not. Yeah, it did. There's one. So we tested that one. Right? So that's your idea. You draw your level and then you take the first touch of it. Right there's the next one. We tested it. You get a smack, right? Let's see if we got the third one. I don't know if we got there yet. I don't think we did. Yeah, we haven't got there yet. But yeah, that's how it works. If that makes sense. I don't know. I don't know any other easier way to explain it.
Makes sense, dude. Makes sense. Yeah, we do have a lot of new people in here. We have almost 800 people viewing on Twitch. I know that this is technical analysis can be daunting for people, but this is
especially
what
I do.
Great way to look at it. Great way to look at it.
Especially at what I do, man. No, everybody just thinks I'm crazy because they're like, you don't draw any fibs, you don't draw this other stuff that they're used to seeing. There's no indicators. So I'm just breaking down the price action, and I'm trying to explain it logically in a way that makes sense. I hope that made sense the way I just did it. Yeah, I know not everyone trades the same. That's sure. That is for sure. All right, maybe I'll take another question and then I'm go get some dinner. So, you want to pick a question that you're interested in, or you want to ask?
Let's see if we can get a good one. Fire it up to his chat. Let's see some good questions here. One more question. Dinner time.
Just a quick question from Rock and Roll, and I'll answer another one. He just asked me, "Is there a method? What's this method called? Price act? I don't know. There really isn't a method. Maybe progression, trading progression.
Identifying previous levels of support and resistance for potential reversal trades or continuation.
Yeah, I just say progression trading, but because price is progressing through legs and support and resistance. So I guess it's kind of a good question. He says, do I have anything to say about double tops and bottoms? I guess I could. Anything to say? It's kind of open-ended, but yeah, I can tell you guys some stuff. Double tops and bottoms, head and shoulders, right? They're essentially the same thing. If it's a pattern, it's going to be one of two things, right? It's going to be accumulation or distribution. Let's see. But I give you guys a little more than that. I'm just trying to find a good example to explain it. What I want to show you, which I showed you guys last week. There really haven't been any on this time frame. Let me. I mean, there was. This is an example, but it's not the. I think I went over it last week too.
Oh, Jay, well, you've been nothing but negative in the chat today, buddy. Please don't call this technical analysis. If you don't think this is dope technical analysis, you have a problem, bud. You have a problem.
Why is it not technical? It's completely technical. Yeah, I don't understand why I would think that. My question is, what would your version of technical analysis be if it's not technical?
Yeah, guys, there's gonna be more awesome people on here. We're gonna have DopeTrades on. He's currently looking for a double top, double bottom. I'm thinking we might not find one here.
I'm there's plenty here, but I want to show you a specific example because it only happens I'd say 10% of the time. In the example I want to show you, and that can only top, which was at the all-time high. Is the only one I can see in this product, but maybe I can see one in another product. I mean, it's pretty close, but I don't think it's a good example either. If not, I'll go back to the Bitcoin one because I know that's an example of double top, double bottom. What I'm trying to show you is where it fails to gain or fails to lose support, and when you take the trade. I mean, I guess we can go back to the Bitcoin example because I know that's one, and I don't want to take up a whole lot of time. So, all right. In this example, at the very top of the market, this is the top of the market at 20,000, right? And you asked me, is there anything interesting about double tops or triple tops or head and shoulders, the topping and bottom patterns, right? And there's something to be said. It's a concept that I call fail to gain. I'll go over it. I think I went over it last week. I'll go over it again, right? So it's pretty, and it coincides with what I've been talking about. Here's the move that took me to the all-time high, right? Before this move happened, I had a move to the previous all-time high, right? Price managed to close above it. We got above it. We got above and made a new high. And then we came down. The problem is, if price were going to go higher, the way trend works, I would want to see this come down and then go higher, but we didn't. The same thing is the same exact example. Example of what I'm just talking about is right here. Price went down, went up, and when you come down to retest inside of this peak, inside of this valley, kind of what we've been talking about all day, right? This whole segment, right? When we come down to test that, if trend is going to continue, I want to see a continuation move higher, right? And I want to go higher, which is exactly what they did, right? Same thing happens. It should have happened here if trend's going to continue. So it's another way to think about how you see reversals in trend. So you could draw a level at the previous all-time high. We made a new one. If trend was going to continue, we would go higher, but we didn't. So your level to short would be a retest of that. A retest. And that's your level to short. It's called failing to gain. You failed to gain support to continue higher. It's like three things in one, right? You've lost the high during this move down. You failed to gain when you retested. I mean, if you don't know that, and you have distribution. So if you can't figure out that we were going to sell off, you probably didn't understand. That's okay. That's what I'm here to try to show you guys some stuff. So let me see. I really want to find another example. Okay, maybe here. This is not a great example, but this would be an example. So we make a low, we pop, we come down and make a new low. We didn't. If trend were going to continue, we would want to go lower here, right? We would want to go lower there, but we didn't. So the idea of gaining a low or failing to lose, we failed to lose support. The idea would be if price came back down here, we would pop off of it. If they did, that's what I would think. If this example holds true, it doesn't have to hold true, but I wanted to show you another example of how it worked. Yeah, maybe one more question and I'll call it good.
Damn good, I would say. Damn good.
It says CryptoCat. Okay, I'll leave you guys with this because it's a question that maybe someone can take a trade off of. So CryptoCat asked me, what is my preferred level to enter a long position on BTC currently? All right. As I said before, I want to see us get above this move that took me down, which they kind of did here, I guess. We have a move down there, and they did get above it, so very well could get pops down here. So down in that area, somewhere down in there. So this valley that's forming. Right, we're forming a valley there. We managed to get above this. I'd really be looking at those two legs. I would expect the price to come back down and test inside of this valley somewhere. And I may not be perfect with the drawing, but you get the idea. And if it's going to pop, I would want to see it go higher and come back up into this peak that's here. So that's the idea. That if I were to, what I would, so I wouldn't do anything until we came down there, and if we did, that would be where I would get long, and my stop. It's probably going to be a pretty gnarly stop. So it would be below this low.
Beautiful. All right, dude.
That's what I would want to see. That's what I would hope to see.
Second time on the stream, guys. DopeTrades. Give him some love. Excellent freaking job, dude. You're a very good explainer. Very good chartist.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man, because it's like a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Usually we have Mike explaining, and he does a phenomenal job as well, but Like this is the first time I see you do charting, and it's very insightful.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I was a little late, had some stuff to take care of, but yeah. So hopefully that helps. Yes, at least maybe it's something you can add to your charting or a concept that you guys can look into when you're trading. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it's too confusing, but it takes time to learn. And yeah, appreciate you guys having me.
Look at that love in Twitch chat, by the way.
Please come back as well.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
No worries.
Yeah,
all right,
so
guys.
Have a good dinner. Thanks for your time.
DopeTrades, thank you very much.